so picking back up here then with 18 through 21. So for 18 through 21, it's going to say the area of the circle is 100.1 meters squared. And then the area of the sector, which in this case is this sector right here that's shaded in, is 30.6 meters squared. Find the indicated measure. So how about we find, let's see, what's going to be like the most work? Let's find the length of arc ACB. Oh, I guess I have a trace, so yeah, that's what I want. Length of arc ACB. Okay, so that's what we're going to find. All right, so first of all, we have to use that same proportion that we were using. But now, because it gives us area, we're going to have the area of the sector over the area of the circle equal to the measure of the arc over 360. That side doesn't change at all, okay? All right, so area of the, so now we plug in what we know. Well, the area of the sector is 30.6. Area of the circle is 100.1. Measure of the arc, that's going to be our x. We have to find that before we can find length of the arc. And then over 360. Cross multiply. So I got to get my calculator back out here. I went to the play in between videos here. So I have 30.6 times 360. So that's 11,016 equals 100.1x. Divide by 100.1. So our x in this case is the measure of arc AB. Right, those cancel. Divided by 100.1. So I get 110 point, and it says, oh, it doesn't say, but everything was given to us in tenths, so let's round to the tenths. So 110.0 is actually how it would round, so just 110 degrees. So that's the measure of the arc. That's not what we're looking for, but we needed to know that. Okay? So that's 110 degrees. So if I can scroll back up here to my diagram. So now I know that this arc here is 110 degrees, right? Yeah, 110. Okay, which would make this arc, because this is actually what I'm interested in, that would make that arc 360 minus 110, which is 250. So that arc is 250 degrees. So then I can start setting up my, well, the other piece I need to know though is my radius, right? Because I need to know circumference before I can find arc length. So to find r, I'm going to use this information right here. So I know that area of a circle is equal to pi r squared. That's our area formula for a circle. So now I know that my area is 100.1. I know what pi is, and then I know r squared. So I divide by pi, right? That would cancel that. And then to get r by itself, I'm going to have to square root. So in my calculator, I would do this all in one step. So I would do 100.1 divided by pi, get an answer, and then square root that answer. So I end up with r being equal to 5.6. Again, we're going to go to the nearest tenth. So 5.6 meters were my units, right? Yep. So that's my r. So now I can start setting up my length proportion, right? So that proportion, again, we used it a couple problems ago. But it's length of the arc over circumference equals measure of the arc over 360. So this is why we needed R and we needed the measure of the arc. Okay, and on the test tomorrow, 18 through 21, each question asks for a different piece of the same problem. So you might think, whoa, this is a lot of work for all those problems, but like in reality, the measure of the arc is one of the questions, the radius is one of the questions, circumference is one of the questions, and then length is the last question. So by finding these other little pieces here, you would have solved the other 3 problems, okay? So this is actually 4 problems in one right now. So finding circumference, right? So remember C is equal to 2 pi r, okay? So length of the arc, that's actually what I'm looking for. So that becomes x. C is 2 pi r, so 2 times pi times 5.6 equals measure of the arc, which we found at 110 over 360 degrees for the whole circle. Then we cross multiply. Oh, that extend. So when I cross multiply, I get 360x equals, now I would do 2 times 5.6 times 110 equals, and it's actually a nice number, 1,232. I still have that pi, right? I'm going to take care of pi at the end. Divide by 360. Divide by 360. So x is equal to, so I'm going to take 1,232 times pi equals, divided by 360 equals, I get 10.8 to the nearest tenth. And that would be meters because we found that was our length. All right, so like I said, that's a lot of work, but in reality on your test, that's 4 problems. Okay, so don't be scared by the amount of work because like I said, that's 4 different problems on your test. All right, if you do have questions on any like part of it or the whole thing, feel free to ask Mrs. Schmidt today or Monday. Otherwise, I will be back on Tuesday, and you can ask me then, but just know that your test is on Wednesday. All right, we'll go ahead and look at 22 and 23. So 22 and 23, again, they're given in words, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they're word problems. So it says, what is the area, right? What is the area of a regular 13 gun, right? So this is regular. That has a radius of 11 feet. Okay, radius of 11 feet. I'm going to tell you right now, one on your test is going to give you the radius, one is going to give you the side length. We already did one earlier where it gave you the side length. Let's see. That would have been, well, essentially that was question 11, right? We had to find the side length because it gave us perimeter. But it's the same concept. So now we're going to do one where it gives us the radius. Okay. So so a 13 gun. Well, I don't know about you, but my drawing skills in a 13 gun, yeah, that's not going to work out. So instead, I'm just going to draw my right triangle because when we're doing regular polygons, everything comes down to solving this right triangle. Okay. The radius is always, right, going to be your hypotenuse. This is always going to be your apothem. And then this side is technically a half of a side, right? Like a side of your polygon. So it tells us that the radius is 11. Okay, the other piece of information I can find right now is this angle. And to find that angle, I take 360 divided by the number of sides. So 13 in this case. So 360 divided by 13. And this is going to get ugly because Ms. Sheeler made up these numbers. But the ones on your test will not be quite so ugly. So 27.7, let's say. But then I got to divide by 2. And I have to divide by 2 because technically that angle would be all of this, right? Because this then would be the side. So I divide by 2, and I just left that number in my calculator, and I get 13 point, let's go with 8, 13.8. Okay, and I know 8 times 8 doesn't leave you with 7, but again, I left the number in my calculator, so it's a little more accurate. And you should do that on your test too. All right, so now I know that this is 13.8 degrees. Like I said, it'll be a nice decimal if it's a decimal at all. You won't have to round the angle. All right, so there's that. So now to find A, I can use, let's see, from here I know the adjacent and the hypotenuse, so that's cosine. So I'm going to use cosine of 13.8 equals adjacent, which is A, and your hypotenuse, which is 11. Right? Multiply by 11 on both sides. That cancels. So I get A is, so I'm going to take cosine of 13.8 times 11, and I leave that all in my calculator. And I would get 10, approximately, I'm going to go 2 decimals here, 10.68. Okay, just to be a little more accurate because we're not done computing. So 10.68. All right, then, so that's A. Then to find this side, so I'm going to call this X for now. To find that side, I'm going to take the sine of 13.8. Because that would be equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Again, I'm going to multiply by 11. So X would be, so let's see here. So 13.8 sine times 11 gives me 2.62. But don't get rid of that in your calculator yet because that's X. But really I need to use X to find P. So now I'm going to take that times 2, and that'll give me S. So that's 5.25. That's S. And again, don't get rid of it in your calculator. Because then to find P, so for P, I take N times S. And N, this was a 13 gone, so 13 times S, which is that 5.25 number that hopefully is still in your calculator. So times 13, and I end up with 68.22. So now it's a matter of just doing area. So area of your 13 gon is equal to 1/2 of your apothem times your perimeter. So it's 1/2 of 10.68 times 68.22. So times 0.68 times 0.5, right? I already have the 68 in my calculator, equals 364.3. Okay? And it's feet squared technically, right? Feet squared. On your test, I'm not going to take off if you forget to label, but do try to label. It's a good habit to get into as you move closer and closer to, actually using some of this outside of school. Alrighty. Again, if you have questions on any of this stuff, make sure you're asking Mrs. Schmidt today and tomorrow. Otherwise, I will be back in school on Tuesday, and I can answer questions there. But do know that your test will be on Wednesday. All right, we will stop this video here, and I will post one more video to finish out the last 3 kinds of problems.